Este, Instruções para a Síntese de Fala. Iniciando as instruções. Você é um narrador, palestrante, com voz potente, forte e autoritária. O tom deve ser firme e inabalável. Contexto de continuidade. A frase anterior era: He sat at the table, fiddling with his cereal. Você está no meio de uma frase ou pensamento. Mantenha o ritmo e a força vocal sem quebrar a conexão. Haja como se estivesse transmitindo uma verdade fundamental. Pare, prestando atenção. Haja como se estivesse transmitindo uma verdade fundamental. We stepped into the woods, the shadows swallowed us whole. As we walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. I pointed out trees, tried to distract Max with stories, but the unease crept back into my mind. Then I spotted something on the ground, a familiar marking etched into the dirt. It sent chills down my spine. I squatted to get a closer look. There were symbols, almost like a language. They were faint, but undeniably there, a reminder of what I had read. My heart raced. "What is it, Dad?" Max's voice wavered, snapping me back to reality. "They're just old markings," I said, though I wasn't entirely convinced myself. I could feel the weight of the forest pressing in around us. "Let's keep walking." But as we moved deeper, the crowing returned. It echoed through the trees, resonating through the air like a dark omen. I froze, a cold sweat trickling down my back. Max's face went pale. "Dad, no!" he cried, grabbing my arm. "I don't want to be here." Suddenly, everything around us went still. The air felt charged, and I could hear my heartbeat thudding in my ears. The crowing was louder now, almost demanding. Something in the forest was awake. That's when a figure emerged from the trees, half hidden in the shadows. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. It watched us with dark, piercing eyes. "Max, run!" I shouted, adrenaline kicking in. But before I could react, it stepped forward. That's when I realized the figure looked human. "Who are you?" Instead of answering, it pointed toward the markings, and without another word, turned and vanished back into the woods. I stood there, horrified, trying to process it all. What had I just witnessed? The crowing grew louder, and a chill soaked through me. I couldn't linger. "We need to go, now."
"You should sit down," he warned. I hesitated, but the threshold felt heavy. I stepped inside, the door creaking behind me. Just as it clicked shut, the crowing outside erupted again. This time it was closer, sharper. I turned, heart in my throat, but I couldn't prepare for what was next. In that moment, I realized I had crossed a line, and whatever was set in motion couldn't be stopped. The musty interior of the house felt stifling. The walls were lined with shelves of dusty books, and the air hung heavy with a mix of old paper and something more unsettling. I glanced back at the door, suddenly questioning my impulsive decision to come here. The historian, Mr. Wilkins, motioned for me to sit at a small table cluttered with papers and strange artifacts. "The crowing harvest is not to be taken lightly," he said, his voice gravelly. "It's an old rite, one that many in these parts have forgotten or chosen to ignore." "Why? What happens?" I asked, my hands curling into fists on my lap. He leaned in closer, the dim light casting shadows across his face. It begins with the roosters. Their commotion is a warning, a sign that something is approaching. It's believed that during the harvest, shadows gather, drawn by the cries. They seek, he hesitated, his eyes narrowing. They seek to claim something. Claim what? I pressed, feeling the fear pool in my stomach. Something precious, something pure, he said, his gaze locking on to mine. Panic flared inside me. You mean Max? I couldn't keep the tremor out of my voice. The idea of something lurking in the shadows for him felt overwhelming. Mr. Wilkins nodded slowly. The crowing harvest is upon us. It happens when the balance of light and dark shifts. It has not occurred for decades, but the signs are all around you. What signs? My mind raced back to the markings I'd seen earlier. The ground is more than it seems, he murmured, almost to himself. The symbols indicate protection, but they're twisted with despair. He pressed his fingers to his temples. They can't be ignored. You must. A sharp clap of thunder interrupted him, the sound shaking the very air around us. I jumped, my heart racing. I glanced toward the window, the darkness spiraling out there, the crowing louder now, like a chaotic display of animal hysteria. Stay away from the woods at night, he urged, his voice rising over the din outside. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. I have to go. Max is alone, I said, urgency surging through me. As I turned to leave, a door slammed somewhere in the house. My heart stopped. It resonated with a finality that felt unnatural. I whirled back to Mr. Wilkins. What was that? Stay close, he shouted, his expression shifting from concern to fear. If they're here, then they've already begun. My blood ran cold. I rushed toward the front door, wrenching it open.
Outside, the air pulsate with sound, the roosters screaming in unison as if answering a call from the darkness. I hesitated for a moment, terror clawing at my chest. Just before I stepped into the chaotic night, I turned back. What do I do? Do not let them take him, he yelled as the crowing crescendoed into a deafening roar. I sprinted into the night, the shadows dancing around me, every instinct screaming that I had to protect Max. As I raced away, I heard the sound that chilled me to the bone, what sounded like laughter echoing from the depths of the forest. That's when I knew the true horror had just begun. The night air felt electric, charged with an urgency that set my nerves on edge. I sprinted toward our house, breathless and terrified, my mind racing with the chilling laughter I had just heard. Every rustle of leaves sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the woods were alive, a whispering voice urging me to turn back. I tore through the tall grass, heart thumping in rhythm with the frantic crowing of roosters echoing nearby. "Max!" I shouted, each call more panicked than the last. "Max!" As I reached the edge of the woods, the chaos of the crowing faded, replaced by an oppressive silence. It felt wrong, like a curtain had fallen. Fear settled heavily in my stomach as I stepped gingerly amongst the trees, scanning the shadows for any sign of my son. Everything felt distorted. The moonlight trickled through the branches, casting long, creepy shadows, and for a moment I saw it, the strange markings that had caught my attention earlier.
I knelt down to examine them closely, hoping for some clarity amid the chaos. Twisted symbols sprawled across the ground, their purpose unclear but unsettling. They almost seemed to pulse, a sickening rhythm synchronized with my racing heart. "Max!" I shouted again, desperation stealing my breath. It was clear I needed to find him, but how could I search in total darkness when danger loomed just beyond my sight? I had little choice but to press deeper into the woods, feeling along the trees for guidance. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught my eye. I hesitated, unsure if it was a beacon of hope or a trap. But with every second, my fear of what lurked behind me pushed me forward. I moved cautiously, the light flickering like a distant star, urging me closer. Then I froze. The laughter erupted again, more pronounced this time, echoing through the trees, mixing with the rustling leaves. I whipped around, half expecting to find something lurking behind me, but the darkness remained still and silent. The light hadn't moved. It was still there, but something felt off about it. I inched toward it, each step fraught with dread, and when I reached a clearing, I finally saw what it was. A small fire flickered at its center, casting dancing shadows against a large, twisted tree. And there, standing by the fire, was a figure cloaked in shadow, its face turned away from me. Max. No response. My heart sank.
Guia de estilo e instruções para síntese de fala. Deste é um meio de uma frase, continuando o ritmo e a força vocal. Mantenha a conexão. Haja como se estivesse transmitindo uma verdade fundamental. Max. No response. My heart sank. I approached slowly, my voice shaky. Is he here? As I took another step, something shifted in the shadows, and I froze. A second pair of eyes glinted in the darkness, watching me carefully. My breath hitched as realization hit. This was not just a figure, it was a gathering. The silhouettes around the fire began to take form, surrounding the tree, their faces hidden in shadow, their laughter dying down to whispers. "Let him go," I demanded, but my voice trembled. The shadows converged closer together, and then everything went dark. I blinked, unable to see, panic surging. I felt an icy grip around my heart, and fear paralyzed me. In that moment, I knew I was no longer alone. Then I heard it. A soft, mocking voice from somewhere in the shadows whispered, "Join us." My breath caught. Whatever happened next, I had to protect Max no matter the cost. But where was he? I stumbled backward, crashing into a tree. The rough bark scraped my skin and brought me back to reality. I couldn't let this darkness swallow me. Summoning every ounce of courage, I fumbled for the flashlight in my pocket. When the light flickered to life, the beam cut through the shadows, illuminating the clearing. The figures around the fire flinched, their bodies shifting like smoke, but they didn't disperse. My heart pounded louder than ever as I aimed the light into their faces, searching for any hint of recognition. But each face was obscured, their features twisted in ways that felt wrong, almost animalistic. My mind screamed for me to run, but I wouldn't leave without Max. "Where is my son?" I shouted, my voice echoing against the walls of trees. The fire crackled, its warmth contrasting painfully with the chill in the air. A taller figure stepped forward, the light casting long shadows over its form. It tilted its head, and a raspy voice broke the silence. "In the woods he plays." The laughter rippled through the group like a wave, chilling my bones. What game? I felt the tremor in my own voice. I didn't want to sound weak, but dread clawed at my insides. The shadows around the fire seemed to pulse with energy, drawing me in, as if I were but a moth attracted to the flame. As I watched, another figure raised its arm, pointing deeper into the woods. "Join us," the voice called, and the laughter returned, swirling ominously in the air around me. I turned back to the darkness behind me, the way I had come. For a moment I considered running, leaving those terrifying faces behind. But something stopped me. The look of those shadowy figures, their hunger, their anticipation. I couldn't let them have my son. "Max!" I yelled again. "If you can hear me, shout!" I hoped against hope that he'd respond, anything to break this nightmare. But there was only silence, thick and suffocating. My gaze snapped back to the fire. "You'll never find him," the taller figure said, its face momentarily illuminated by the firelight. I saw nothing human there, just darkness and gleaming eyes.
"He belongs to us now." A wave of anger coursed through me, igniting a surge of adrenaline. "No! You can't have him!" I rushed toward the fire, ready to confront the chaos. But as I moved, the shadows flickered, blurring their forms. It was as if the tree itself warred against my presence, roots snaking at my feet, trying to trip me. Then came a cry, faint and desperate. My heart lurched. It was Max. I heard his voice echoing from the depths of the forest. "Mom! Max!" I bellowed, my fear replaced with a fierce determination. Ignoring the figures around the fire, I plunged back into the darkness, the flashlight beam shaking in my grip. Each step felt heavier, the forest closing in around me. I ran toward the sound, ignoring the whispers behind me. I had to reach him. He was out there, somewhere in this twisted nightmare. But the shadows around me were moving, closing in. I couldn't shake the feeling that the gathering was not just watching, they were hunting. That realization hit me hard. Someone or something was in the woods with us. I needed to get to Max before it was too late. The trees loomed overhead, their branches clawing at the night sky as I pressed forward. Max's voice, still echoing in my mind, pushed me to run harder. I zigzagged through the underbrush, each crunch of leaves beneath my feet a reminder that I wasn't alone. The darkness whispered, tugging at my thoughts, as if warning me to turn back. "Max!" I called again, though I was starting to fear I might be shouting into a void. Suddenly, the branches rustled to my left. I skidded to a stop, heart racing, and turned the flashlight toward the sound. A deer stood frozen, its eyes wide, reflecting the light. I stayed still, too terrified to breathe. Then it bolted, crashing through the trees, and I felt a rush of air, as if something had been disturbed. I pressed on, fighting against the growing sense of unease that wrapped around me. Each step felt like a challenge, like the ground itself wanted to hold me back. "Max!" I yelled again, feeling the adequate urgency in my voice. "Where are you?" And then there it was, another cry, more distant this time,
Mom! My heart surged. I wasn't imagining it. I had to be getting closer. But a new sound crept in, soft laughter that was neither warm nor inviting. It felt pointed, mocking. I turned to see shapes moving deftly among the trees, their figures barely illuminated by my light. Panic shot through me. They weren't just watching, they were drawing closer. With every step I took, I felt exposed, like prey meant to be taken. Just as I reached the edge of a small ravine, the flashlight flickered. I cursed under my breath as the beam wavered, casting strange shadows that danced along the nearby trees. "No, no!" I muttered, shaking the light as if it would solve my problem. That's when I saw it. A faint glow from the other side of the ravine. Could it be a fire? Max?
"No!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Get away from him!" The creature turned its head toward me, the laughter ringing in its throat as a cruel smile danced on its lips. "He's ours now," it crooned, and as if the world around me held its breath, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. "Max, come to me!" I called, holding out my hands. My heart raced as I ran towards him, ready to scoop him up and flee. But the creature loomed between us, a dark barrier ready to snatch him away. Just as I reached the edge of the clearing, the air crackled with a strange energy, and the laughter erupted again, echoing through the trees. I couldn't let this darkness drown me in despair. I had to fight back. Rage surged within me, and I lunged forward, pressing my palm against the rough bark of the ancient tree. "You can't take him!" I screamed, feeling a rush of defiance course through my veins. "Not today!" The ground beneath us trembled as if in response to my fury. For the first time, the creature's expression faltered and the laughter stuttered. I focused, letting my energy flow into the roots of the tree, calling upon the strength of the earth that had long stood witness to countless cycles. The darkness flickered. Light burst from the earth beneath my hands, illuminating the clearing, blinding the figures taking form around us. I felt Max's fragile hand slip into mine, grounding me further. "Stay close," I shouted, pulling him towards our only chance. With renewed determination, I took off, still grasping his small hand in mine. Shadows shrank away, recoiling from the light that pulsed within the clearing. The laughter twisted into a chorus of angry hisses, the figures swirling like smoke as we dashed back toward the path that led us out. As the trees began to thin, I dared a glance back. The figures writhed, struggling against the beam of light now pouring from the clearing. The laughter faded into whispers, voices distant and angry, begging for something that I didn't understand. "Keep running," I urged Max, whose small legs struggled to keep pace with mine. The darkness still pressed in around us, but I refused to let it win. We broke open into the forest's edge, breathless and gasping in the cool air. "Where are we?" Max looked up, eyes wide and filled with questions unasked. I don't know," I gasped, feeling the sanctuary of the open space. "But we're safe now." Still, the night's chaos hung heavy in my chest. But as we stumbled into the safety of the parking area, I felt that looming presence linger like a shadow just at the edges of our vision. The dark remnants of the forest curled ominously behind us. We climbed into the car, heartbeats sinking in frantic rhythms, but before I turned the key in the ignition, I saw it. The tall figure re-emerging at the tree line. its presence a reminder that not everything had escaped the forest that night.
Holding Max tightly, I told myself that we were free. Yet an uneasy knot twisted in my stomach. The knowledge that we had brushed against something unfathomable, something that might never fully let us go. I drove away, the road stretching before us, an uncertain path. And as the darkness faded behind us, questions spun in my mind. What exactly had we encountered? Were the threats now behind us, or had they merely taken a new form? The echoes of that night would forever linger in the corners of my mind, a haunting reminder that some mysteries remain unanswered. I had saved my son, but at what cost? The shadows stayed close even as we moved into the light. With each mile, the world outside looked normal, but inside I knew things had irrevocably changed. And as I glanced in the rearview mirror, all I could see was the gentle sway of ancient trees, their secrets still whispering in the night.